Oh, g'day, toy blokes and toy sheilas from all around the world. It's me, Matty Boombaddy from Smash Tokyo Toys. Thought we'd have a bit of a toy rant and toy rave today about two things that really annoy the bejesus out of me here in Australia. Um, the first is the eBay crackdown about 5, 6, 10 years ago on army builders coming out of Australia, and it was big packs of, say, I don't know, 100 Hiss tank guards, 100 clone commandos, or whatever it is from whatever toy line you liked. And they'd be big bags of toys that you could buy for 100 US dollars, which meant they were a dollar each. And what happened was that toy nerds kept reporting them as bootlegs, and it all got shut down. Well, if you watched my first video, you would know that I am an Australian toy designer. I have done 12 toy lines over 20 years, and they weren't very successful. And what I did was I realized that I didn't really know that much about making toys. I just sort of jumped into it and did it because it was my life stream, which you should know I fucking hate it when people say that. It's shit. You will just blow everything you have. You'll lose your house if you just do things that are your live stream. So what I did was I listened to everyone's advice. I have a lot of friends in the toy industry, and their advice was go learn everything there is to do about toys. So I went to China. I went to 13 toy factories. I went to the factories where they make Transformers, Jurassic Park, Star Wars. I've seen how everything's done. I talked to the managers, I talked to the people on the line, I stayed with the people, like I stayed with factory workers. And what I learnt was everyone was correct. I really didn't know shit all about toys. And I learnt everything there was to know. I learnt how to market toys, learned distribution, and that was my bottom line. Was I just didn't do any of those things, and I didn't have what it takes to be a toy designer. So I stopped, and now I put all that money into travel, and I travel around the world helping people like the Incredible Hulk. But I still am very passionate about toys, and what I people come to me all the time and they ask me how can I make this toy I want to make, and usually I'm like, here is everything that can go wrong. You need to really sit down and contemplate what you're doing. So it really fucking annoyed me that there were these guys in China, and they were offering people this amazing deal, and all these toy nerds. Now, you and me, if you're watching this, we're not toy nerds. We are toy geeks. Toy nerds are the sniveling, pedantic dipshits who ruin everything for everyone. They're the guys they go out and they say, I am the greatest Motu collector in the world. And every week they go out and buy 10 new figures, and they go online and bag the shit out of them and say, oh, I hate this figure. Look at the paint job. Someone at the factory has done a really bad paint app around the eyes. There is no fucking person at the factory hand painting the eyes on toys anymore. That shit has not happened for years. It's all done by machines now. You need to stop saying that. Every time I watch someone in the Jurassic Park community or the Star Wars community and they're buying all these toys, or worse, Hasbro is sending them toys and they're bagging the shit out of them and they're spreading that myth, it makes me want to punch a fucking goat. That's not true. Hasbro, stop sending these people toys. Send them to us. Send them to real toy designers, people with experience who can actually talk about the realities of toys and toy design and what goes on in the factory. Anyway, back to this story. So, if you're watching this right now, seriously, send it out to everyone you know. Here is what the real story was about the 100 toy army builders. So I was at the factory, and I was there when this was back during Clone Wars, when Clone Wars was big, and eBay, the guys that I knew in China, they had every type of clone trooper you could get. So I had just I was at the factory. They were building the clone tanks. I can't remember its name. It was a big giant clone tank. And so what happened was, as I was leaving, there's a guy out the back in the back alleys, and he's got bags and bags of clone troopers. And so I said to him, what's the story? What's going on with these bags of clone troopers? Are they bootlegs? And he was like, no, he worked at that factory. He was on the floor at the factory. And what happens is, as a perk, because these guys get paid no money, as a perk, anything that lands on the factory floor, they're allowed to take. Because once it hits the floor, it goes in the bin, right? Well, you can imagine the sorters, the people who sort the toys, as the toys are flying along on the conveyor belt, well, they just happen to knock every fourth or fifth one onto the floor, don't they? And it goes into a bag, which they then put on eBay by the hundreds, because 100,000 toys go through that factory every hour. So they were knocking them onto the floor on purpose, which then they got to sell as perks. So all you fucking toy nerds all around the world who stopped that from happening, you kept complaining to eBay that they were selling bootlegs, you completely fucked all of us toy geeks all around the world from getting these cheap toys. So here I was, the manager had already sold me a really cheap turbo tank, and I was in the back, and here were these guys, and I said, hey, shit, I'll take a bag of 100 Clone Troopers. And because I was there on the spot, it was like $50. It was the best bargain I ever got. And of course, my friend, who's like this amazingly huge Star Wars collector, he ended up with a turbo, like a $50 turbo tank and a $50 bag of 100 troopers. So you can imagine, when I got back to Australia, here I was on all these forums saying, hey guys, you should buy those. You should buy those, 50 Cobra Commanders or whatever it was you wanted that were on eBay at the time. And everyone was going, I'm not buying those. Those are bootlegs. And I'm like, they're not bootlegs. I was literally just there in China. I was putting up photos of it, like photos of the guys in the back alleys, photos of the conveyor belt when all this was happening. And no one believed me. Because why would they fucking believe me? Oh, fuck you, Australian guy. We're Americans. Ooh, we know more than you. So let me get to the second part of this story. I'm going to say this and no one's going to believe me, even though all of us designers all around the world talk about it all the time. Your time collecting toys has nothing to do with expertise on toy design and what goes on at the factory. So nobody gives a fuck that you've been collecting toys for 50 years and you have 30,000 toys. That has nothing to do with your knowledge on how to design toys and what goes on at factory. Just because you've watched a lot of videos on the internet, that doesn't make you an expert. Seriously, here's an analogy, right? That's like me being at a party and someone has a stroke and there's a nurse and a doctor in the room already dealing with it, and I come running over and push them out of the way and go, it's all right, I'm a mechanic. That's the analogy. That's the analogy I use all the time because I've seen that happen. Like here in Australia, my job is I work with severely impaired children, and I've had classes where there's 9 kids and they have seizures all day. So someone had a seizure at a party, I was dealing with it, and a guy came over and pushed me out of the way because he wanted to be a superhero, and he said, it's all right, I'm a mechanic. Well, that had nothing to do with seizures. Well, it's the same thing when I watch all these videos, and there's all these people, and Hasbro's sending them boxes and boxes of toys because they get 1 million views. Well, then they go on to say all this total bullshit about what goes on in factory. And they're like, oh, look at this paint app around the eye. See how there's like a tiny smudge there? Well, that's because a woman in the factory fucked up today. And I was like, no, that's not true. That hasn't happened for years. Factories are very modernized. So it's probably that the machine has done 20,000 friggin' toys in the last hour, and it's starting to have a bit of fatigue. That's the reality. Like, it's common sense. They say the most amazing bullshit. And I'm like, I can't believe that Hasbro sent this guy, like, in Australia, toys cost an incredible amount of money. So when I see him opening that box, I'm like, that's like $3,000 worth of toys they've sent him. Well, I mean, it's probably only cost them $40. But to us in Australia, we can't believe it. We sit around, me and my friends, going, I can't believe this dildo just said all that absolute bullshit, and he's bagging the toys. He is bagging the toys that he claims to love every week. Honestly, I'm tearing up here. I can't believe it. Hasbro, stop fucking sending those guys toys. Send them to me in Australia. I love toys. I love every toy. You could give me the worst toy you've ever seen. I'm still going to smell it if it's straight from factory, and I'm going to feel the lines on it, and I'm going to say, wow, I love this, but I'll still talk about what could go wrong with that toy, how it's been poorly marketed. You know, like, I remember when George Gaspar had his toy video blog. At least George would give, like, really good reviews. He could, because if I sent a toy to George Gaspar, I would tell him everything that went wrong, what went wrong at factory, what's going on with it, and he would give a quite a good review. He would say, if it was a bad toy, he would say why he hated it, but he wouldn't make up bullshit about it. Like, I really missed George Gaspar's toy reviews. Those were great. So let's get on to the other thing that absolutely drives me fucking crazy with toy reviews and stuff like that. And we're going to go and we're going to talk about this bad boy right, let's see if I can get it right here. The HasLab Sentinel. Now the HasLab Sentinel, let's get down to this. Here in Australia, this is how expensive toys are. So let's go for the Mandalorian Grogu. Now that toy is 1 inch. If you buy it on its own in America, it's 1 inch. It's about that big. I can't even compare it to anything. All right, so here's one of my toys. My toys are 4 inch. So the Grogu only goes up to their hip. Now, in America, if you wanted to buy Grogu without the Mandalorian, just on his own, I think it was $4. In Australia, it was $32 on its own. That's what toy prices are like in Australia. And we don't have clearance aisles. We don't have, end caps or anything. Last week, I went to a Toy World and it was in a rural area. They still had Avatar 1 figures on the top shelf, like hidden away on the top shelf. Things just sit there. Like Avatar, what was that, 10 years ago it came out? So that's what things are like in Australia. It's disgusting. Well, if you meet people who have like 10,000 toys, they're either rich or they've just been collecting for 30, 40 years. That's how things are here. It's disgusting. So when I see video, and honestly, this is the thing in America, that HasLab's Sentinel, wherever it is, that cost $1,000 Australian. And it was really bloody hard to get. Like, I had to go through a store here called Zing, and they fucked up. Took like 2 years to get here, and somehow I got it for free. I don't know how. They just kept messing up the order. And so it just rocked up one day, and I was like, oh, that was good. I paid for that. But everyone else, if you've got that, that was $1,000 Australian, which is ridiculous. I mean, you Americans paid $300. I don't know what you paid for it, but $300 is a lot of money if you don't have any money. So can you imagine what it's like to be a toy designer, watching Americans pull it out of the box and shake the living shit out of it, and then go, oh yeah, it does have dodgy knees. We're laughing our ass off at you guys here in Australia. It weighs about 9 pounds. So all of the pressure is on the knees, guys. If you shake the living shit out of it, then yes, it's going to have dodgy knees. I have 2 of them, no problem with the knees, because I didn't pull it out of the box and shake the living shit out of it. That one's been sitting up there for ages, no problems. The other one I've got in the box, pulled it out, had a look at it, ratcheted it around, no problems. There is no one I know in Australia who has one with any problems in the knees because we don't pull them out of the box and shake the living hell out of them. So all those guys online, and you've posted those videos saying, oh, yeah, look, it's got a problem with it. Try not to shake the living hell out of a really, really heavy toy where all the pressure goes into the tiny joints at the knees. You won't have any problems with it, you absolute dickheads. Unbelievable. I am sure that everyone at Hasbro who helped design and make that toy is just shaking their heads, going, why would you do that? Do you not know anything about, like, physical mechanics, engineering? Like, that would be like me getting this toy and, like, twisting this to the side and going, oh, I wonder why it broke right here. I don't understand. I just don't get it. Sometimes I just think, why? Why do Americans do these things and then go, oh, my toy broke? Have you not seen, there's a very famous video of the vintage Deathsaurus toy from the 80s. This toy is known to be incredibly, incredibly brittle. It costs about 900 pounds. There's a video, you should look it up. There's a video of a guy, he buys one for 900 pounds, which is like nearly $2,000 in Australian, probably in the US as well. He buys it, very well known to be incredibly brittle. Literally says everywhere on the internet, do not try to transform. Buys it, goes online, opens up the box, grabs it, twists it, and it breaks in half. Pretty much the same story as the don't shake the shit out of your Sentinel toy. it just blows my mind that people are this dumb. So that is why I'm renaming my videos to Smash Tokyo Toys Toy Rant. We're going to rant about some things that I think are common sense, but apparently no one else in the world does. I'm sure that any toy designer watching this is going to go, yep, common sense. I'm always going to carry this guy. This is like my favorite toy, and we're going to use him as our little dummy, because there's a lot of dummies. So that's our video for today. The two things that really pissed me off was toy nerds. I hate toy nerds. Toy nerds are the guys who come up to me at parties and their wife has come over and said, "Hi, my husband really wants to make a toy, and we heard that you're a toy designer." I'm like, no, I'm not a toy designer, I'm a toy maker. There's no difference. Yeah, there is. Scott Tollison is a toy designer. You know Scott Tollison? He's a guy who does the turnarounds, will go out and get the toy sculpted, probably does all the art for the toy, and then he takes it to factory. That's a toy designer. I don't do any of the art for my toys. I just have a really good idea, and then I sublet everything else. I'm a toy maker. I have no art skills whatsoever. But, so they'll come up to me. So the husband will come over and he'll go, "Yeah, man. Yeah, yo, I've got the best idea for a toy." And I'm like, "Cool, have you got a turnaround?" "What's a turnaround?" Okay, so you turn around, you have to do the front, side, back of the toy, put Pantone colors on it. That's a turnaround. "Oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that. But anyway, I want to do a poo dragon." "Oh, a poo dragon. Okay, that sounds original. Cool. Yeah, I saw it on Cartoon Network." "Well, that's not original. You can't do that. It's a Cartoon Network thing." "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway." Red flag. And so he goes on and goes into it, and I'm like, "Okay, have you thought about marketing the toy?" "I don't know what that is." "Okay, well, you need marketing. So how about you go on to and I start to write it all down. Go on to Spanky Stokes, go on to Toys Are Evil, maybe go on, I don't know what sort of toy is it? Is it a vinyl toy? What's vinyl? Like records? Holy shit, buddy. So you can see where I'm going. So I'll spend 2 hours writing everything down, getting him on the right direction, telling him if he wants it done in China, does he want it done in Japan, what sort of toy it is, vinyl, soft vinyl, blah, blah, blah. Goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And after 2 hours, you know what he says? Ooh, you're going to love this. You know what he says? He says, "You know what? I think I'll go ask my mate Sheila about it." "Oh, Sheila, great. What does Sheila do?" "Well, she's a cosplayer with great big tits, man." "Oh." I'm looking over at his wife and I'm like, "Sheila, great. Your wife's just over there, man." "Yeah, but Sheila's a cosplayer, man. She gets 2 million views." Now remember back to the beginning of the video where I said views does not equal expertise. Time collecting does not equal expertise on toy production. It does not equal what goes on in the factory. It's your knowledge of toys does not equal expertise on toy production. Any toy designer in the world will tell you that. Fuck, I'm a guy, I made my first toy Seismic Ace. I just made it all up as I went along. Well, that toy fucking failed. Completely failed because I had no idea what I'm doing. And it took 10 years for me to learn that you can't just make shit up as you go along. This is a guy who's making shit up as he goes along. He had no idea what he was doing. If he made that toy, he would blow 100 grand or 50 grand or 20 grand and just have nothing to show for it. For the record, this toy, we had a multi-million-dollar deal in the works. We made no money. $0. Because it all fucked out. Because the toy was not produced on time. We had giant skate super companies wanting to work with us. And guess what? The factory just fucked out. They just didn't refuse to work with us. So that can happen to you. We don't even know where this toy is. It's not listed in the warehouse. The warehouse, whenever we contact them, they just say, "Oh, we're busy right now." No one knows where this toy is. And I know plenty of designers that can tell you right now they have no idea where their toys are. You ever hear those stories about, it's like 40 years later and suddenly warehouses find huge, big vintage Star Wars box loads? That can happen to you. So, he says his friend is a cosplayer who gets 2 million views. how does that? And I said, whoa, I don't understand. So how does that help you make this toy? And he says, well, man, 2 million views and she's hot. So I just went, okay, you're obviously a dick. You have no idea what you're talking about. That happens to me probably every time I go to a party. If it's an industry party, now an industry party is you might know someone who works in radio. You might know someone who works in rock and roll. You might know someone who's a stuntman. That's like an industry party. Everyone at the party is connected somehow. That happens to me every time I go to one of them. I go to probably 2 or 3 a year. I've been to one with the girl who wanted to make a toy, and she knew what she was talking about. You know what she said to me? She said, thanks for all that information. That was great. 2 hours or 3 hours worth of information that would get her started. She said, but I'm going to go talk to my mate Roger because he makes resin toys in his garage. And I was like, fuck me. I said, oh, so has he made like resin toys at factory? And she says, no, but he makes really good. He gets like Star Wars toys and he puts the fucking head on G.I. Joe toys and then somehow he puts flowers inside them. So good. And I was like, oh, well, I hate to tell you, but Roger is not the Super Suck Lord of New York. And she's like, who's that? I said, you should go look up Super Suck Lord of New York. I said, Roger is like down here. I said, everyone who makes toys, they all start off doing resin and they slowly move up until they do a toy at factory. But Roger is everyone. I said, I started making resin toys in my garage. And eventually I made a resin toy at factory. And then I made vinyl toys at factory. I said, don't talk to Roger. I said, look, everything I've written down, do all that first, and then go make a toy at factory. Now, guys, my next video, I will tell you everything there is to know about financing a toy. Every fucking thing you need to know. Now, some of it only works in Australia. A lot of it will work in America. But guess what? If you can't do any of the 5 things I'm telling you, if you can't do any of it, you will never make a toy. I'll even talk to you about exposure bucks. And I will tell you that I know 50, 60 toy guys who right now in the new millennium are all saying, I would never work for exposure. Never. I will never work for exposure. I don't want prestige. No prestige bucks for me. Every single fucking one of them have worked for a prestige. All of them. Guess what? If you worked for Kid Robot, you worked for prestige. You all did. Kid Robot didn't pay you any money. They gave you a box full of toys. Now, if you didn't sell those toys, if you gave them out to your family and friends, you worked for prestige. If Nike came a knocking tomorrow and said, hey man, we want you to work for us, we can't pay you, we'll give you like a whole carton full of shoes, you will work for prestige. You all will. Fuck. If Coke came knocking on my door and said, hey Matt, we loved all your toys from 10 years ago, we'd like you to come do a campaign with us, I would bloody sell my soul for that. If they said, we can't pay you, I'd be like, I'd love to work for you, Coke, because that would springboard my career. And if you're saying now, you will never work for prestige, you're a fucking liar. Shit. Frank Kozik did a shoe for Nike. Do you think he said no to Nike? Well, none of us would. I know 5 guys who worked for Nike. They didn't get paid. They got given a friggin' truckload full of shoes. Now, they could either sell the shoes or keep them. Well, 3 of those 5 guys, they still have a whole garage full of shoes. And every year they give them out to all of their friends for free. Free! That's prestige. Now, you might say, no, it's not, Matt, because they got paid in shoes. They didn't get paid because those shoes sold for millions of dollars. That's prestige, man. You can look it up. I talked to a lawyer about it. He said if the company is not paying you from the millions of dollars, it's prestige bucks. You're all fucking lying to yourself. I have 2 bookshelves full of Kid Robot books with all your names in it. You prestige, because if you don't sell those toys, if they don't sell, it's prestige bucks. So you need to get off your high horse. If you're constantly posting, I would never work for prestige, you would. You would in a second. Fuck, if a big budget company, some of those big movie companies came to me and said, hey Matt, we want to put you in this movie, but we can't pay you. Fuck, if it was Paramount, I'd be there in a second. Imagine if you won a Logie, but you didn't get paid. Do you think you'd be whinging about it? No, because it'd make you fucking famous. They'd be making toys of you. I'd do it. I've done it before. I've been in like 5 or 6 movies. Fuck, me and my friends were in, The Matrix Reloaded. They just said, guys, we need you guys to come in and be in this. We're like, yeah, shit, yeah, we're not credited. I've been in heaps of movies where we're not credited. When I was younger, we did it because it was fun. Prestige. So be careful what you're saying on the internet because people call you out all the time. Fuck, we can get sued for shit these days. Anyway, that's me with my rant for this week. I'll come up with a better rant next time. But if you want to follow, next time I'll tell you the 5 ways that you can finance your toy. The first one, real easy. And I'll even I better not name and shame a couple of guys who do this because I'm sure as soon as I mention what it is, you'll think of who they are. One of them lives in Asia, and as soon as I talk about it, you'll go, I know who you're talking about. All right, peace out, have a good night, have a good day, have a good week. I'd say, you know what, I always say don't do what I wouldn't do, but my mum says you do just about anything. She's probably right. All right, have fun. Oh, if you have the black version of this, I really want it. Probably wouldn't pay over $600 though. Have fun.